back to another episode of Seongdong DIY. In our previous videos, we made this really cool flower pop-up card, as well as this twist and pop-up card that opens like that, and this waterfall pop-up card. If you pull like this, it moves like that. So if you haven't seen any of those and you're interested in seeing them, you can check them out in the iCard up here, or you can go look at them on our channel. I'm going to move these aside and introduce today's card. So for today, we are going to be making this card. It looks pretty simple, but it's got an exciting little surprise. So if I just open it up, it makes a 3D box like this, and you can have lots of fun things coming out of it. So this is the design that I made for our example. It's nice little stars, exciting things. So we're going to be working on something like this today. So that is the card. Now let's go look at the materials. Okay, so for our materials, first of all, we're going to need some paper. So for this particular project, we have the required materials and the optional materials. So I'm going to take you through what is required and also what is optional. So first of all, you are obviously going to need the paper that makes the box. So this piece of paper here, which I've decided to do in this blue color, which is this purple color on our example one, is 14 centimeters wide and 28 centimeters long. 14 centimeters wide and 28 centimeters long. This is a required piece. You need this piece. Another required piece is these two pieces right here. These are 10 centimeters long by 2.5 centimeters wide. So 2.5 centimeters wide by 10 centimeters long. These pieces are all required. You must have them for your pop-up. The next part is optional. So if you look on the box, all of these black squares that decorate the box, you can put those on if you want to, or you can leave them out if you want to. I'm going to add them to the box, so that is these papers here. So the small side pieces here on the side of the box, those pieces are 4 centimeters by 6 centimeters. So 4 centimeters by 6 centimeters. The next pieces are these two here, the backdrop and the front in front, the one in front. So that's these two pieces here. So those ones are 6 centimeters by 7 centimeters. So 6 centimeters by 7 centimeters. These 4 pieces are optional. You do not have to do them. I just think it makes it look a lot neater. Another thing you're going to need for the box is, as you can see, we've got all this fun stuff coming out of the box. So for that, you're going to want to make your own little shapes, and that is up to you for whatever you've decided. For this box, I did lots of stars, a little bit of a galaxy theme. For today's box, we're going to use a couple other different pieces. As you can see, I already made some of them here. So we've got a rainbow and some trees and some flowers, and I'll show you how we use those later. For this, what I really recommend is to use your scrap paper. So if you look behind me in my drawer, I have a drawer here that says scrap paper. So in our scrap paper drawer are all of these little pieces of paper that are left behind from when we did other projects. I just use those for this project. It's a great way to save up some of those papers and not waste them. If you don't have any scrap paper, that's totally okay. You can use a new piece of paper. But I do recommend whenever you make art projects, keep those little extra pieces of paper because they can come in handy later. As you can see, this scrap paper, I used this to make my little rainbow. That's where I cut it out from. So these are going to be very useful for later projects. The next thing you're going to need is a ruler and a pencil to be able to mark your lines down with. You will also need scissors or a knife if you need that to cut your paper down to size. And of course your adhesives. So you can use glue or you can use the double-sided tape. I will be using a little bit of both for this video. Great. So, one last thing. For decorating, you might want to use some colored pencils or some markers. It's up to you, whatever you want to use. So that is all of our materials. Now let's move on to how to make the card. Okay, so now it is time to assemble our card. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to take our ruler and we are going to measure out on this piece and mark down a few measurements. So the first measure we want to mark down is 5 centimeters. So make sure your ruler is lined up nice and straight. I'm going to put it here on the edge so I can make sure it's really straight. and we are going to mark 5 centimeters. 5 centimeters. Then the next measurement is 13 centimeters. Right here, 13 centimeters. And then you want to mark 18 centimeters. And then finally 26 centimeters. So here is 5, 13, 18, and 26. Now I marked all of these out and I'm going to make a straight line across so it's easy to see. Okay, great. So now we have all of these marks and now we are going to fold them. So you're going to take all of them and you want to fold the same direction because you're going to be making this box. So you don't want them to be like going like this and then this and this. You want them all folded in, so it's going to make a rounded shape. So we're going to take all of these and we're going to fold them. I'm going to fold them this way just because the line is easier to see while I'm moving along. So I'm just going to speed this up and fold all of these. Okay, so now we've got all of our folds, and as you can see, it's already making this nice box shape. So this is how we are going to be making our 3D shape later on. So the next step is you are going to mark halfway through the piece of paper. So our piece of paper, remember, our paper is 14 centimeters wide. So we want to take this and we're going to mark the 7 centimeter spot. And you're just going to mark it a couple times because it's a long piece of paper. We want to make sure that our line stays straight the whole way down. We're going to mark 7 centimeters. Okay, so when you're finding that middle point, it would be easier to just fold the paper in half. But if you fold the paper in half now, then this piece will not stay standing. It'll end up flopping over like the other parts. So it's better to just mark it down and do not fold it yet. So now we've got our middle piece, so we're going to move on to the next step. So the next step is you are going to cut. And you're going to cut your folds from one end to the middle. Only to the middle. Do not go past that point. You're going to go all of these folds from the end into the middle. I'm going to fast forward and do these really quick. Okay, and for this last piece here, this really small piece at the end, you're going to actually cut straight down like this. It does not have to be perfect. This part is not going to be seen, but you want to cut this little tab off. So I'm just going to cut a little angle like this and cut this tab off. And this piece is going to go straight into my scrap drawer, and I can use it for another project later on. Okay, so our next step, the next thing we want to do is we want to fold these tabs down. So this is when you can fold the tabs, but do not fold this last one. This last one is going to be the standing up part. So these other ones, I'm just going to gently fold them down like this. I'm going to fast forward and do those real quick. So now, like I said, we need to attach our box. We're going to take this part right here. I'm going to put some adhesive on it and attach it like that. So So just gonna fold it like this so it's a little bit easier to work with. And put a little bit of glue on it. Make sure you don't get glue everywhere. You want to just have it on here. So I'm actually put my finger underneath so it's not touching the other part of the card. All right, and once that's got a lot of glue on it, you're just going to take the end and fold it down over it and squish it down. There we go. So now we've got the box. These folds need to be a little stronger so that it pops open. But we've got our basic box shape, and it closes like this and then pops out into a box. So the next thing we need to do is we need to take these two little pieces of paper that I showed you earlier, and these are going to go inside the box. They're going to be kind of a secret piece. If you look in our top-down view that we have, you look down and you can see that there are two little pieces holding all of our stars on. So if you look down in there, you can see these two pieces holding our stars on. So that's what these pieces are going to be. So if you notice, if you look, this piece is longer than the side of the box. So obviously it can't just go like this, it's not going to work. So you need to fold over the ends. So to make sure it's absolutely perfect, what I recommend is to hold it like this on the edge of the box and just copy the fold. That way you know it's going to sit perfectly in the same fold. So there we go, we've got our nice little folds. I'm going to make them a little stronger. And great, so you want your piece to look like this. It's going to look kind of like a table. You've got the two ends that point down like this. And you want both sides, you want both of your pieces to look like that. So I'm just going to copy the same folds on this other piece. And this is a great way to do this without having to use your ruler. You just match the measurements. And that way, if for some reason this measurement wasn't perfect, it's okay because these ones will match. So rather than using a ruler, it's kind of better to use your own pieces to measure up against each other. Okay, great. So now we've got these, and these little ends are going to be how we attach it. So we're going to put a little adhesive right here on both sides, and then we're going to stick it down in. So what I recommend is you want to take one with the edges pointing that way and put it in the front, and then the other one you want the edges pointing back, and you want to put that in the back. And that way you can just make sure that they're evenly spread apart from each other. So I'm going to quickly do that in some fast forward, put some adhesive on here, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I put some adhesive on here, and the best way to make sure that those are stuck down is actually just to close the card. And that way you can make sure they're really firmly stuck in there. Also, it makes sure that when you fold your card later, it's going to fold neatly. If those marks weren't quite perfect, it would go and it kind of fold in a weird way. So it's best to shut your pop-up like this so that you can make sure that it's nice and correctly folded. So now if you look in our top-down view, you can see that there's those two pieces there waiting to be decorated. So this is the assembly part. It's pretty simple. This is just your basic box. But if you give somebody this, it's not very exciting, right? It's kind of like, oh, thanks, it's a box. So the next step we need to do is our decorations. So let's go into those. Okay, so now that we have it built together, it's time to do the fun part, the decorating. So I already decorated all of my pieces, this part. I didn't want to do it on camera because it was going to take a really long time. But this is what my design looks like. These are the pieces we're going to be working with. And I also already went and put double-sided tape on most of them. This one I did not put double-sided tape on because they're a little small, so I'm going to use the glue for that one. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put each of these pieces onto the different flaps of the card. So this one, our little sun piece, is going to go right up here on the top. And then it's going to say happy birthday here in the middle, and then the two flower pieces on either side. So I'm going to quickly do that. Okay, so there we go. These are our little flaps are now decorated. So the pieces, the size that I gave you is 1 centimeter smaller in each direction. So if you want to, you can measure out a 1/2 centimeter from each side to make sure it's perfect. I just kind of eyeballed it. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good. You can't really tell that it's not perfectly aligned. So that's going to be for the flaps, and that looks really nice. So now we need to start putting things that are sticking out of the box. So today I went for kind of a fun, summery nature kind of feeling. So I've got some flowers here and some trees, and I've got my big rainbow. I'm going to save the rainbow for last. I'm going to put the little tree pieces. So if you can tell, these are different kind of connections. The flower pieces, we're going to glue directly across the thing like this, so it sticks out like this. For the rainbow, it's going to pop out a little more, so that's going to stick up like this, sticking out of the box. And we can adjust how tall we want it to be depending on how much we want to see this sun behind it. So first I'm going to put the flower pieces on. So these are also going to be connected using the double-sided tape. Okay, so I've got my flowers and my trees in place, and this is really cool. If you look how it's going to be going on different little tabs, so it kind of gives it a 3D feel. It looks like you're kind of looking through the looking through the flowers into the trees. So that's a really cool design. The sizes are a little messed up. These flowers are pretty big if you look at them compared to the trees, but maybe the trees are really far away. So now we need to decide where we want our rainbow. Do we want to put it up here really high, or do we want it kind of lower just above the flowers? So I'm going to decide how I want to do that, and I'm going to use glue to put it on. Okay, there we go, and now we have our cute little rainbow that's added in. So I just want to give you a couple of quick tips for how to do this. So if you look inside the box, I actually have some pieces that are glued behind, but you can also glue in front. So you can glue more than one thing to the same spot. You can glue, so if you look, especially on this example, you can really see some of these stars are glued on the front of the tab and some are glued on the back of the tab. So it just depends on where you want to put it, and that way you can put a lot of things in kind of the same spot. And you can put them, like these two are coming from the same spot, but the shooting star is in front of this really tall star. So that's one tip. Another tip, if you saw when I was working on the rainbow, it was kind of hard to reach down in there to pinch. You can also go from the bottom and pinch it from the bottom. So if you're having trouble reaching this way, try it this way. It might help a little bit. The last thing I want to show you is, if you can see, these stars are going and the clouds are going wider than this box. So you might think, oh no, how is that going to hide when the box is closed? But if I close the box, if I close it this way, you don't see any of those stars poking out, right? That's because you can always go, especially on one side, you can go past it as far as this piece goes. So this width past it, and that'll be fine. It'll still be hidden, because when I close it, if I keep these flaps on, you can kind of see those pieces are all within this width, right? So that means that they're going to be still hidden once the flaps are closed. But if I were to go outside of that size, it's going to be seen when you close your box. So you can always put a piece in, close it, and go, that's not hidden, and move it. That's all good. So those are a couple of tips. This is how your box is going to finish up. So I hope you guys make these. I hope you have a lot of fun making them. I really enjoy making them. So if you do decide to make them, please send us your pictures. You can send them on our homepage, and we will put the link to that down below in the description. And we would love to see the designs that you come up with. So that is it for today. We hope you have fun, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.